Does our research using observer data take into account the possibility of observer bias? Okay, so bias is an inevitable part of human interaction. And with any 360 assessment, observers are going to walk in with their own experiences, assumptions, and interpretations of why a leader does what they do. And we have explored this on different occasions, and we do this to help us learn more about how the identities of the leader and their observers may interact, right, with one another as they're filling out the questionnaire. So, for example, we found that the LEA behavior of consensual, which has to do with seeking input from others and actually adopting their ideas, is important for conveying inclusion to people of a different racial or ethnic identity than the leader. Consensual is not an important factor for conveying inclusion to those who are like the leader, who are of the same racial or ethnic background. And so here, what we're seeing is that the observer's background does, in fact, influence what they expect from the leader, right? What they expect in terms of inclusion. We also know, that people have multiple levels of identities. And by using aggregate data to describe what a leader is doing, we control some of that noise. So, for example, a leader could have, say, 10 observers, right? And each of those observers is describing their experience with the leader. Now, every observer is going to have a variety of commonalities and differences with that leader. But when you combine it all, you're really getting a better sense of how that leader is being experienced by people who have a lot of different things in common with them, but also a lot of things that are different from them. But you get a closer or a better idea of how it is that they are experienced in general. Finally, I do want to add that in order to reduce some of the potential bias in the 360 feedback that leaders receive when they take the LEA 360, behaviors in the questionnaire refer to specific and overt actions, right? And that reduces the amount of interpretation that is required to answer each item in the questionnaire. Norms are regional. So percentile scores, which is how people receive their scores, those are derived from a comparison to leaders within their region. Right. So culturally, it's going to be a relevant group of people that are similar to those with whom they interact at work. Now, self-awareness is about how one is being perceived, bias and all, right? And so we want to make sure that 360 feedback really does increase that self-awareness. And by, in a way, triangulating how a leader is perceived through the eyes of all their different observers, they get clarity about that, even if there is potentially a little bit of bias there, but that bias is going to be present outside of the assessment as well. In addition to this, MRG does provide a vast library of research about gender, generation, country, and other differences to help leaders, along with their coaches or consultants, to interpret their feedback in light of these factors. Which, as much as we can do to reduce how much they influence results in the assessment, will always be, if a little bit, will always be present.